What's up, everybody? Blessed be. My name is Manon, and you are watching Witch in the Working, where we will be discussing all things witchy in and around, throughout and about, above, below, and beyond. This video offers my personal views on this topic at hand. Please visit me on my other platforms as well, including Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon, all linked down in the description below. The full script of this video and most of the others is available on my Patreon account for download if desired to build your very own Witch in the Working Book of Shadows. Do you need help with a spell or fancy a tarot reading? Shoot on over to my store Bewitching and Bizarre, linked down in the description below for your personalized working and or reading. Have you ever thought about where you come from? Not just your parents or grandparents, but your entire family line stretching back through the centuries. In the world of the occult, these ancestors are more than just names in a family tree. They're powerful connections that can guide and support you in your spiritual practice. In this episode of Witch in the Working, we're going to talk all about ancestors and how we can work together with them in our spiritual and magical lives. Without further ado, roll intro. Welcome back, everybody. Ancestors aren't just the people who lived before us. They're part of our spiritual team. Think of them as a crowd cheering you on from the sidelines of life. They can be blood relatives, but they don't have to be. Some people consider ancestors of the heart or spiritual ancestors those they feel a strong bond with, even if they're not related by blood. For example, a teacher who inspired your path in magic or a historical figure you deeply admire could be considered an ancestor in this sense. What makes ancestors unique in the occult is the idea that their energy doesn't disappear when they pass away. Instead, it transforms. Their wisdom, experiences, and even their mistakes can become a source of strength and guidance for those of us who are still alive. The occult teaches that everything is connected, past, present, and future. Ancestors are like bridges between these times. They represent the past, and by working with them, you're connecting to the roots of your existence. This connection can bring stability and depth to your spiritual work. Imagine trying to grow a tree without strong roots. It wouldn't last long, right? Ancestors are those roots, grounding your magical practice and making it stronger. But they don't just provide stability. Ancestors can offer wisdom, protection, and guidance. Think of them as allies who want the best for you. By honoring them, you're not only showing respect, but also building a relationship where you can ask for help when you need it. Ancestral veneration has been around for thousands of years, practiced in cultures across the globe. In ancient Egypt, people believed that their ancestors could influence the gods on their behalf. Families would leave offerings like food or flowers to honor them. Similarly, in many African traditions, ancestors are seen as mediators between the living and the spiritual world. They're not just remembered, they're actively celebrated and included in daily life. In Asian cultures, such as in China and Japan, ancestral worship is deeply ingrained. Families maintain shrines where they leave offerings and even consult their ancestors for guidance on important decisions. Meanwhile, in Europe, pre-Christian pagans often held feasts or rituals to honor the dead, believing that their spirits could return to offer blessings or advice. These traditions teach us that connecting with ancestors isn't a new idea. It's a timeless practice that has adapted and survived in different forms throughout human history. Today, many witches and magical practitioners carry on these traditions, adapting them to fit their modern lives. Here's the thing. Working with ancestors isn't just about lighting a candle and hoping for the best. Like any relationship, it takes time, effort, and respect. Start by getting to know who your ancestors are. Research your family history if you can. Even if you don't know much about your bloodline, you can still connect with the idea of ancestors on a broader level. One of the easiest ways to begin is by setting up a simple space dedicated to them. It could be as small as a shelf or as elaborate as an altar. Place items that remind you of them, photos, heirlooms, or symbols of your heritage. Don't forget to include a small offering like a cup of water, a piece of fruit, or even incense. These acts of kindness show your ancestors that you're reaching out, and they can open the door to a deeper connection. When you feel ready, talk to them. It might feel strange at first, but remember, they're not here to judge you. Speak from the heart. Share your struggles, ask for advice, or just thank them for their presence in your life. Over time, you might notice subtle signs that they're listening. A dream, a sudden inspiration, or even a gut feeling that seems to come out of nowhere. Connecting with ancestors isn't about living in the past. It's about learning from it. Your ancestors lived through their own challenges, and their stories can teach you resilience, courage, and wisdom. By honoring them, you're not only acknowledging their contributions, but also weaving their energy into your own life. It's a way of saying, I'm here because of you, and I'm carrying your legacy forward. In the end, ancestors remind us that we're never truly alone, just as we'll one day be part of the lives of those who come after us. When you work with your ancestors in the occult, you're tapping into a wellspring of strength and wisdom that has been passed down through generations. It's a powerful connection, one that can help you grow, heal, and thrive in your spiritual journey. Have you ever done something special to remember someone you love? Maybe lit a candle, looked at old photos, or talked about them with your family? Honoring ancestors in the occult isn't so different. It's about creating meaningful ways to show respect and keep their memory alive. But in magic, this act goes beyond remembrance. It becomes a spiritual connection, a way to honor their legacy while inviting their guidance into your life. In magical practice, showing respect to ancestors isn't just a nice gesture. It's like tuning into a radio station. Imagine your ancestors' energy as a signal that's always broadcasting, but to hear it clearly, you need to adjust the dial just right. Honoring them is like fine-tuning that connection. When you take the time to focus and care for this bond, the static fades and their messages and support come through loud and clear. It's about keeping that signal strong and vibrant so you can stay connected. When you honor your ancestors, you're saying, I see you, I value you, and I want you to be part of my life. This recognition strengthens your bond with them and opens the door for their support and protection. It's also a way to show gratitude for the paths they walked, which in turn have shaped yours. One of the most common ways to honor ancestors in the occult is by creating an altar. Don't worry, this doesn't have to be anything complicated or fancy. An altar is just a dedicated space where you can connect with their energy. You could use a small table, a shelf, or even a windowsill. When building an altar, start with items that represent your ancestors. As I mentioned earlier, this could include photographs, keepsakes, or even objects that remind you of the culture or traditions they were part of. You might also include candles, a small bowl of water, and offerings like flowers, food, or incense. These offerings are like spiritual gifts, a way of saying, this is for you, thank you for being here. Remember, this altar is yours, and there's no right or wrong way to create it. Make it personal. If you don't have pictures or physical items, symbols work just as well. For example, if your family has roots in Ireland, you can include something like a Celtic knot or a shamrock. Honoring ancestors isn't just about having an altar. It's about weaving their presence into your daily life. One simple way to do this is by lighting a candle and taking a moment to think about them. Say their names out loud or talk to them in your own words. Share what's on your mind, whether it's something you're struggling with or something you're excited about. You can also include them in your meals. Many people who practice ancestor veneration will set aside a small portion of their food as an offering. This doesn't have to be anything elaborate. A small plate placed on the altar or a quiet thank you before eating can be a meaningful gesture. Another idea is to celebrate their favorite traditions. Did your grandmother love baking? Maybe spend an afternoon making her favorite recipe. Was your uncle a storyteller? Share one of his stories with someone else. These acts of remembrance are like little lights that keep their legacy glowing. Special times of the year like Samhain or Dia de los Muertos are perfect opportunities to honor ancestors through celebration. These holidays often focus on remembering loved ones who have passed and inviting their spirits to join the festivities. You could hold a small ritual or even have a feast where you leave an empty seat for them at the table. A ritual doesn't have to be complicated. Something as simple as writing a letter to your ancestors can be deeply meaningful. Tell them about your life, your goals, or even your struggles. When you're done, place the letter on the altar. Burn it safely as an offering or keep it as a reminder of your connection. One important thing to remember is that honoring ancestors is deeply personal. It's not about doing things a certain way or following strict rules. It's about finding what feels right for you and your relationship with them. Some people feel an immediate connection, while for others it takes time. Both are okay. What matters most is the intention behind your actions. Honoring ancestors is about respect, gratitude, and love. Even small gestures can have a big impact when they're done with sincerity. Over time, honoring your ancestors can become a natural part of your life. It doesn't have to be a big production. It can be as simple again as lighting a candle, saying a quick prayer, or thinking of them when you see something that reminds you of them. These small acts keep their presence alive and help you feel supported and grounded. By honoring your ancestors, you're not just looking backward, you're also creating a spiritual foundation for your future. It's a way of saying, I remember you, I honor you, and I carry your lessons forward. And in doing so, you become part of the cycle, keeping the connection alive for generations to come. Imagine picking up a phone to call someone you can't see but who still hears you. That's kind of what it's like to communicate with ancestors in the occult. It's not always as straightforward as a phone call, but with the right tools and focus, you can make a connection. Let's take a look into how we can communicate with our ancestors through methods like divination, meditation, and dream work. Reaching out to ancestors isn't about, saying hi and hoping for a casual chat. It's a way to seek their wisdom, ask for their support, and understand the unique energy they bring to your life. They've experienced their own challenges, victories, and lessons, and those insights can be incredibly helpful to you. In the occult, it's believed that ancestors remain connected to us even after death. By communicating with them, you can gain clarity on your own path, find strength in difficult times, or simply feel a sense of connection to something greater than yourself. Before diving into any method of communication, it's important to set a clear intention. Think about why you want to connect. Are you seeking advice on a specific situation? Do you want guidance on your spiritual practice? Or are you just looking to build a stronger bond with your ancestors? Having a clear purpose makes the connection more focused and meaningful. One of the simplest ways to connect with ancestors is through meditation. Don't worry, it's not about sitting perfectly still or thinking about nothing. Meditation in this context is path working, which is about creating a calm space in your mind where you can focus on your ancestors. Find a quiet place, sit comfortably, and close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths to relax. Imagine yourself in a peaceful setting, maybe a forest, a meadow, or even a cozy room. In this mental space, picture your ancestors approaching. They might appear as people, shadows, or even just a feeling of warmth. Pay attention to any sensations or thoughts that come to you. This is their way of communicating. If you're new to meditation or path workings, don't worry if it feels a little awkward at first. It's like learning to play an instrument. It takes practice. Over time, it can become a powerful tool for connecting with your ancestors. Divination is another way to reach out to ancestors. Think of it like using a translator to understand their messages. Tools like tarot cards, pendulums, and scrying mirrors are popular choices for this. For example, you could use a tarot deck to ask your ancestors a question. Shuffle the cards while focusing on your intention. Pull a card or two and see what story they tell. Don't worry if the meaning isn't immediately clear. Sometimes ancestors communicate in subtle ways, and their messages might make more sense over time. Pendulums are another simple tool. Hold the pendulum by its chain, let it hang steady, and ask your ancestors yes or no questions. Watch how it swings. Forward and back for yes, side to side for no, or circular for maybe. And for those of you who are, I know, going to come out and they're going to argue the directions of the pendulum I just gave, you do you. Okay, the most common one is up and down is yes, side to side is no, circular is maybe. If you do something different, great. I don't want to hear about it. Next. Again, patience is key. The more you practice, the more confident you'll feel in interpreting the responses. Dreams are one of the oldest and most natural ways to communicate with ancestors. When you're asleep, your mind is more open and it's easier for them to reach you. Before going to bed, set the intention to connect with your ancestors. You might even place something under your pillow, like a photo or a small object that reminds you of them. Keep a notebook by your bed so you can write down any dreams as soon as you wake up. Dreams can be mysterious, so look for symbols or recurring themes. For instance, a specific place, a spoken word, or even a feeling can hold meaning. Over time, you'll get better at spotting these patterns and understanding what they're trying to tell you. Not all communication happens during a formal ritual or meditation. Sometimes ancestors send signs in everyday life. It could be a song that reminds you of them, a sudden thought that feels like advice, or even a physical object like a feather or coin appearing in an unexpected place. The key is to stay open and aware. Pay attention to moments that feel unusual or special. These could be subtle ways your ancestors are reaching out to you. If you don't feel like you're getting it right away, don't worry. Communicating with ancestors is a skill, and like any skill, it improves with practice. The most important thing is to approach it with respect, patience, and an open heart. Over time, you'll develop your own methods and feel more confident in the connection. In the end, ancestral communication is about creating a dialogue, a way to learn from the past, find strength in the present, and build a path toward the future. It's a beautiful way to honor where you've come from while embracing where you're going. What makes you you? Is it your personality, your choices, your dreams? While all of these play a part, there's another layer that often gets overlooked. Your ancestry. Your lineage is a river of energy and stories flowing through time, carrying pieces of culture, tradition, and magic from those who came before you. Let's journey into how your ancestry influences your magical practice and how embracing your cultural roots can add depth and power to your connection with the spiritual world. Your ancestral lineage is like a giant family tree that stretches across history. It includes everyone who came before you, parents, grandparents, and beyond. But it's not just about genetics or biology. It's also about the traditions, beliefs, and practices they passed down. Some of these influences may be obvious, like holiday celebrations or family recipes. Others might be more subtle, like sayings, values, or even certain ways of thinking. In magic, your lineage is more than a list of names or faces. It's a source of energy and wisdom that can shape your spiritual path. By exploring where you come from, you can uncover unique magical tools and practices tied to your heritage. Every culture has its own magical traditions, practices shaped by the land, the people, and their unique ways of seeing the world. For example, some cultures use specific herbs, symbols, or chants in their rituals because they believe those elements hold spiritual power. By connecting with your cultural roots, you can learn about these practices and incorporate them into your magic. Let's say your family has roots in Scotland. You might discover traditions like using heather in protective charms or working with the ancient Celtic Wheel of the Year. Or maybe your ancestors came from Mexico, where Dia de los Muertos celebrates and honors the spirits of the dead. By learning about these traditions, you're not just practicing magic, you're tapping into something ancient and deeply personal. Even if your family didn't pass down specific traditions, that doesn't mean you can't explore your cultural heritage. Research your ancestry and the magical practices of those regions. This can spark inspiration and help you feel more connected to your practice. When it comes to working with lineage, it's important to understand the difference between bloodline ancestors and spiritual ancestors. Bloodline ancestors are your direct family members, people whose DNA you carry. Spiritual ancestors, on the other hand, are individuals who inspire or guide you even if you're not related by blood. These could be historical figures, magical practitioners, or even cultural icons who resonate with your spiritual path. Both bloodline and spiritual ancestors can play significant roles in your magical practice. Your bloodline ancestors bring the energy of your personal family history, while spiritual ancestors connect you to the broader cultural and magical traditions that inspire you. To explore your ancestral lineage, start with what you already know. Talk to family members about your history. Where did your ancestors come from? What traditions did they follow? These stories can provide valuable clues about your roots. Be careful though. I went through most of my life believing I was part Cherokee Indian because of a family name of Faircloth on my father's side. My sister talked me into doing the Ancestry DNA test thingy, and after applying all of this to family trees and researching, come to find out, Faircloth actually comes from the Wales, England area, and I have absolutely no Native American blood in me whatsoever. If you don't have access to family stories, don't worry. You can still research your heritage. Look into the cultures and spiritual practice of the regions your ancestors lived in. Books, documentaries, and online resources can be great places to start. Even DNA tests, if you choose to take one, can offer insights into your ancestry. Once you've gathered information, think about how you can incorporate these discoveries into your magic. Maybe you can use symbols, colors, or rituals from your cultural background. These practices don't just honor your ancestors, they also help you connect more deeply with your own identity. One of the most beautiful things about magic is how adaptable it is. While it's important to honor your roots, it's equally important to make your practice your own. You don't have to follow every tradition or ritual exactly as your ancestors did. Instead, think of their practices as a foundation you can build on. For instance, if your ancestors used certain herbs in their rituals but you feel drawn to others, it's okay to adjust. The magic comes from the intention and meaning you bring to your work. By balancing respect for your heritage with your personal preferences, you create a practice that feels authentic and powerful. Imagine inheriting an old beautiful house. It's full of charm and history, but as you explore it, you notice cracks in the walls and creaky floors. You love the house, but to make it a safe and happy home, you'll need to fix some of its flaws. This is a bit like healing ancestral trauma. The spiritual energy of your ancestors is a part of you, and while it carries wisdom and strength, it can also carry wounds. Let's explore about how to recognize and heal those inherited challenges in a way that helps you live a fuller, freer life. Ancestral trauma, sometimes called generational trauma, is the idea that pain, struggles, or harmful patterns from past generations can be passed down through families. It's not about blame or judgment. It's just a natural result of how connected we are to those who came before us. For example, if your ancestors lived through war, famine, and oppression, the stress and survival strategies they developed might linger in your family's energy even generations later. This trauma isn't always obvious. It can show up as recurring fears, unhealthy habits, or feelings you just don't fully understand, like sadness or anger that seem to come out of nowhere. The good news is, just like you can fix the cracks in that old house, you can work on healing these inherited wounds. Healing ancestral trauma isn't just about letting go of the past. It's about breaking cycles and creating a brighter future. When you heal, you're not only helping yourself, but also your family, both those who came before you and those who will come after. Think of it like fixing an old road. If there are cracks and potholes, it's harder for anyone to travel smoothly. By repairing the road and paving over the rough spots, you make it safer and easier for everyone. Your ancestors who've walked it before you, and the generations who will journey on it after you. The first step in healing is recognizing the pattern in your life that might be connected to ancestral trauma. These patterns can be emotional, like a tendency toward fear or guilt, or they can be more practical, like financial struggles or difficulties in relationships. Start by asking yourself some questions. Are there challenges that seem to run in your family? Do you notice certain behaviors like avoiding conflict or being overly cautious that feel like they might have deeper roots? Are there stories from your family history that stand out, times of hardship, loss, or survival? Sometimes just identifying these patterns can bring a sense of clarity. It's like shining a flashlight into a dark room. You start to see what you're dealing with. Once you've identified patterns, you can use magical tools to start the healing process. One powerful way is through ritual. A simple healing ritual might involve meditating on your intention to heal and visualizing your family's energy becoming lighter and more peaceful. You could even write down the patterns you want to release on a piece of paper and burn it, safely of course, as a symbol of letting go. Another tool is visualization. Picture your family line as a long thread stretching back through time. Imagine yourself gently untangling knots or soothing out frayed edges. This symbolic act can help you focus your energy on healing those old wounds. Herbs, crystals, and oils can also be helpful. For example, rosemary is associated with remembrance and healing, while obsidian is known for its grounding and protective properties. Choose what feels right to you and incorporate these items into your rituals or meditations. Healing ancestral trauma isn't something you have to do alone. Your ancestors can actually be your allies in this work. You can invite them to be part of the process by speaking to them, lighting a candle in their honor, or even just holding them in your thoughts. If you feel drawn, ask them for guidance. Let them know you're working to heal and grow, not just for yourself, but for them too. This act of inclusion can transform your relationship with your ancestors, turning pain into partnership. Healing isn't just about releasing the old, it's also about building the new. Once you've cleared away the energy of past trauma, think about the kinds of patterns you want to create for yourself and your family. Maybe you want to foster more openness, kindness, or courage. Whatever it is, set an intention and take small steps towards it every day. For example, if you noticed a pattern of fear or hesitation in your family, you might set an intention to be more confident in your decisions. You could use affirmations, journaling, or even small acts of bravery to reinforce your new pattern. Healing ancestral trauma is a journey, not a quick fix. It takes time, patience, and compassion for yourself and your family. But every step you take is a step toward freedom. Freedom from the weight of the past and freedom to live the life you want. As you work through this process, remember to celebrate your progress. Healing isn't just about fixing. It's about growing, learning, and creating something beautiful from the energy of those who came before you. By honoring their struggles and choosing to move forward, you're helping to write a new story, one filled with hope, strength, and possibility. Have you ever thought about how your choices today could influence future generations? The idea of legacy, what we leave behind for others, isn't just about passing down family heirlooms or stories. It's about creating a ripple effect that touches the lives of people we may never meet. In the occult, ancestors aren't just the past, they're also a bridge to the future. Think of ancestral legacy as a flowing river. It starts at a distant source, your ancestors, and travels down through time, carrying their experiences, lessons, and even their dreams. By the time it reaches you, the river has carved its own unique path, shaped by every person who contributed to its flow. This legacy isn't just something you inherit passively. You interact with it, respond to it, and even change its course. In magical practice, this means that you're not only influenced by your ancestors, but also actively contributing to the energy that will flow to future generations. One of the most empowering things about ancestral legacy is how it connects the past to the present. The lessons your ancestors learned through their triumphs, challenges, and daily lives are embedded in the energy they've passed on to you. These lessons can guide you as you navigate your own life. For example, if your ancestors were resilient in the face of hardship, you might find that resilience comes naturally to you as well. Or if creativity was a strong trait in your lineage, you might discover an unexpected talent for art, writing, or problem solving. By tapping into this energy, you're not just honoring your ancestors, you're also uncovering strengths you might not have realized you had. Legacy isn't just something we receive, it's also something we create. Every choice you make, every intention you set adds to the energy that will be passed down. This means that you have the power to shape the kind of energy future generations will inherit. Start by thinking about the values and qualities you want to pass on. Do you want to leave behind a legacy of kindness, strength, or creativity? Maybe you want to create a tradition of honoring the earth, embracing diversity, or pursuing knowledge. Whatever it is, you can begin weaving these values into your life right now. One way to do this is by creating rituals or traditions that reflect your intentions. For example, you might plant a tree to symbolize growth, write a journal to share your thoughts with future generations, or light a candle each week to focus on your goals. These small actions might seem simple, but they carry powerful energy that builds over time. It might feel strange to think about people who haven't been born yet, but in the occult, time is seen as a cycle rather than a straight line. Just as you can connect with your ancestors, you can also send energy forward to future generations. This doesn't require any special tools, just your thoughts and intentions. Try visualizing a thread of light stretching out from you into the future. Imagine it weaving into the lives of those who come after you, carrying your hopes, love, and wisdom. This isn't about controlling their path. It's about giving them a foundation of support and guidance. You can also write letters to future generations. These don't have to be formal or serious, just write from the heart. Share your dreams, your lessons, and even your challenges. When the time comes, these words might become a source of inspiration for someone who needs them. The idea of creating a legacy might feel like a big responsibility, but it's also an incredible opportunity. You're not expected to be perfect or to have all the answers. Your legacy isn't about never making mistakes. It's about living with intention and being mindful of the energy you're putting into the world. Even small acts can have a lasting impact. A kind word, a thoughtful decision, or a creative idea can ripple out in ways you might never see. By embracing this responsibility with joy and curiosity, you can approach your life as a work of art, one that contributes to the greater tapestry of your lineage. Ancestral legacy teaches us that we're a part of something much larger than ourselves. It's a cycle of receiving, shaping, and passing on energy, a never-ending flow that connects the past, present, and future. By honoring this cycle, you're not just preserving the past or planning for the future, you're living in harmony with the essence of magic itself. As you walk your path, remember that you're not alone. Your ancestors are behind you, cheering you on, and your descendants are ahead, ready to carry your light forward. In this way, you're part of a story that never ends, one that's filled with infinite potential, love, and possibility. Connecting with your ancestors is like building a bridge between the past, present, and future, as I mentioned earlier. It's a way of honoring the lives and lessons of those who came before you while creating a foundation for the people who will come after you. Whether it's through rituals, exploring your cultural roots, healing old wounds, or leaving behind a legacy of your own. This journey isn't just about looking back, it's about growing into the person you're meant to be. Your ancestors' energy lives on through you, and by embracing that connection, you're tapping into a well of wisdom and strength that's always there to support you. Remember, this path is deeply personal. There's no one-size-fits-all way to work with your ancestors or explore their impact on your life. The key is to follow what feels right for you and to approach this journey with respect, curiosity, and an open heart. By taking the time to honor your ancestors and their legacy, you're not just keeping their memory alive, you're also discovering your own place in the larger story of life, and that's truly a magical thing. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of Witch into Working. What is one way you feel connected to your ancestors, and how do you honor that connection in your life? If you could ask your ancestors one question, what would it be and why? Let us all know down in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to ring that little bell to be reminded of wonderful and exciting future episodes to come. I love you guys and gals. Blessed be.